Welcome back to We Don't Color on the Dog. We have gone through a week of negotiations between the House and Senate. We've got with the state rep, Alex Andrade, who handles the healthcare side of the budget. Alex, thank you for doing this morning.
Hey, good morning, Rick.
Good morning. All right, there's a lot to unpack. A lot of attention was paid to the budget this week, a lot of coverage from a lot of different media sources. Let's click through a few of them. You had talked earlier last week about trying to tie paychecks for agency heads and upper level people in the DeSantis administration, that if they don't deliver their their reports, they don't get a paycheck. Is that still part of the language?
Yeah, so I included some language a couple days ago in my House offer for proviso language requiring that ACA enter into an extensive data sharing agreement with the legislature. And until that happens, the ACA secretary won't receive a paycheck.
And when will that go in effect immediately, or will it start? Well, I guess the fiscal year starts July 1st. Yeah,
Yeah,
so pretty
and the
quick.
and the deadline to enter into that data sharing agreement is September.
Okay.
So it should happen pretty quickly, but we'll see.
Is that something the governor can veto?
It is, but I don't know why the governor would veto a provision requiring more information to be shared with the legislature. That would feel weird to me.
Well, weird things happen. The other big topic this week has been navigators, whether state employees should be moved over to Hope, Florida navigators. Should they expand the program? What's happening with that, Alex?
Well, right now, the House hasn't agreed to fund any new Hope navigators. I mean, this whole session, we've been asking questions about the Hope Florida initiative. The governor's office can't decide if it's a movement or a philosophy or a program. They keep describing it differently. But to the best that we can all tell, it's just the governor wants to hire more state employees as caseworkers, as social workers, to go do casework for constituents. Unfortunately, they don't, because they say it's not that. There's no like metrics that traditionally are applied to social workers and caseworkers. So it's a bizarre situation where they're trying to say it's something it's not. And the thing that it is, they refuse to apply the same metrics to. So, yeah, right now we're proposing not funding any new positions just because the program hasn't proven itself.
And the other thing that's come up, and the governor and the first lady, when they traveled and did their Hope Florida tour, several press conferences in May, they constantly kept saying this is costing the taxpayers nothing, but it is. Y'all uncovered that the hotline has been being that Hope Florida's used was being funded with ARPA money, which I guess it's still taxpayer money one way. It's still government money that could have been spent on something else. The last I saw, that y'all weren't very interested in funding the hotline with state.
Well, no, and what we found out is that they commandeered so many DCF existing employees as Hope navigators that the actual DCF hotline for information that people go to, people were being put on hold for hours at a time. You can't shut down an essential function of state government to redirect employees to go do something completely different like that, like especially not without input from the legislature. It's just further proof that Governor DeSantis either does not care about how the state is operating, or he's just incompetent as a manager.
Well, and the other thing that's come up, it just overnight, I saw in Peter Scorch's takeaways for the week. Another thing's come up is that DCF is now upset with the Orlando Sentinel because their investigative reporter is trying to dig into what's people that say they've been helped by Hope Florida, what their reactions is, and now they're going after the media for investigating. It's not unusual. I mean, I see that here on different things, but it's the fact that we get a bunch of yelling and screaming and very few facts is one
Well,
big.
yeah, I mean, imagine a government entity sending a cease and desist to a reporter for asking questions. It is bizarre. And I can tell you, based on the information that this reporter has, so he hasn't gotten the bank records from the Hope Florida Foundation, just like I haven't gotten the bank records from the Hope Florida Foundation. But unlike me, he actually did get a spreadsheet that was typed out by Jeff Aaron, the Hope Florida Foundation's attorney that defrauded the foundation of that $10 million. So Jeff Aaron retyped what he claims to be most of the income, revenue, and expenditures for the Hope Florida Foundation for the past 2 years into this spreadsheet. On that spreadsheet, there's a couple payments directly to some families, and then there's two payments for like cabinetry and one payment for handyman services. So what I imagine Jeff did, Jeff Schweers is the reporter, is he called those families, or he tried to figure out who those families were, and he just asked them, what was the money for? How was the money used? I don't think DCF, I don't think it was appropriate for DCF to say, don't ask questions. And also, I don't know if it's appropriate that this foundation was just cutting checks without any kind of metric or standard. I mean, there's no information on why they chose these specific people or exactly what they did with the money.
Well, and that's counter to what the First Lady has been saying. You know, the whole message has been that this is to do a government function better than the government can do it, but to connect people with nonprofits, primarily faith based nonprofits, but nonprofits. So to give it directly to somebody and not have a nonprofit to go through or recommend them to talk to them, that's out of sync with the stories that we've been hearing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's all very bizarre. And I don't blame a reporter for asking those questions. I mean, someone should be asking those questions, and it's incumbent upon the Hope Florida Foundation and DCF to answer those questions. Like, why did those families get chosen out of the hundreds of families that could have potentially been benefited? And exactly what was the metric to justify those payments? We still have no idea.
And then, of course, it goes back to the bigger picture of the time that Hope Florida is being run through the Florida Education Foundation. And we don't know. We know, like here in Pensacola, the First Baptist Church got a nice check. We know it because they did a presentation and Steph White's talked about it, but we don't know where the monies came from to do that and what else expenses were run through whatever kind of, I don't even know for sure how Florida Education Foundation covered it. There's a little bit on their 990, but not a lot.
Yeah. And again, I mean, if you got nothing to hide, just answer the questions. And you're an arm of state government. Why are you hiding the ball? It makes no sense to me why they're being so defensive about this, unless they're afraid someone's going to uncover something very negative.
Now, I keep up with the trolls. You've got me looking at them. I know I have got my share of trolls that come after me, but you caught a lot of heat over cancer research, which was a fake story. Fake news. Who would imagine? Uh, tell our tell our viewers about what you're doing with cancer research.
Well, yeah, I mean, so there's like four main programs here in the state that are kind of lined out as cancer research. One, like the star for cancer research, is our program for NCIs. We have four nationally recognized cancer research institutions in Florida. Like, think Moffitt Cancer Center, the Mayo Clinic, University of Florida, and University of Miami. They get in the base budget about $130 million every year to help fund and support their cancer research efforts. After Casey DeSantis was diagnosed and treated for breast cancer, largely at Moffitt, she wanted to create her own program. And so we have in the base budget $60 million for this Casey DeSantis Cancer Research Initiative. Unfortunately, what was framed as cancer research has really just become a method of subsidizing cancer care. While I don't necessarily have a problem with subsidizing cancer care, the purpose of this was to support improving and innovating cancer treatment, not to subsidize cancer treatment. So when the one sole metric for this cancer program is how many patients are being treated, well, I don't fully understand how you can justify calling that cancer research. This year, in addition to the $60 million they were going to get no matter what, well, I mean, I guess I could have cut it, but in addition to the $60 million in the base budget, they wanted $30 million additional dollars. And I did not think that it was justified. There's been no real justification or track record for this program. on, any innovation they've actually been able to implement. And so I haven't been comfortable funding it. As part of the budget process, if the governor's office cares about it enough, I'm sure they'll trade on it, negotiate on it, but it's part of the process. But because I wasn't going to give more money, a 50% increase to this program just of my own volition, I was being accused by people of cutting cancer research here in Florida.
Yeah. I watched that one. You handled it well. Overall, are there any open items between you and the Senate and Senator Jay Trumbull on the healthcare budget?
Not between me and Jay necessarily. I mean, there's some things that the Senate president really wants, and there's some things that the speaker really want. And we have to get some of those resolved before I can finalize a projects list. So I could not stay in Tallahassee any longer just because my wife is, she could go into labor any day. But we hashed out everything else. Now we're just, getting a few more items lined up and negotiated between the Senate president and the speaker and the governor's office. And once those are hashed out, Senator Trumbull and I can work out a projects list to fully finalize our budget. I have $79 million in projects that the Senate doesn't agree on, and the Senate has $70 million in projects that I don't agree on. So what I've proposed is essentially we set a cap at 80 million. We each take 40 million and we go back in to the unresolved projects list and we each put $40 million on the projects that we want to still have funded. That way we actually line up and have an identical project list at the end of the day. It should work out pretty well. If there are projects we both agree on and we've both put money on, then we split the difference on that and we go spend it on other projects. So unfortunately, like if you don't have your project lined up before you bump, meaning like you declare an impasse between budgets, your project is at risk. So now it's just a process of figuring out which projects I have to cut and which projects Trumbull has to cut to actually make ends meet.
And then the bump process means it's headed to the Senate president and the House Speaker to negotiate, right?
Well, and that's what we've that's what we've done as far as, these are the outstanding items. All outstanding items are president and speaker initiatives. So you guys need to figure that out before we can finalize the budget. But I'm definitely intimately still involved. I was just reviewing another offer this morning, and hopefully we can get it resolved before next week.
Good, good. Before you go, Alex, and I appreciate you doing this. I know it's very, very close to another Andrade coming into the world, which is exciting. The This week, a lot of discussion at County Commission Committee of the Whole about Baptist and the demolition, and there was some concern brought over about the state funding that it could be at risk. You and I have talked about it before. And I think it was mentioned at the meeting, one of the commissioners, I think it might have been the chairman, Kohler, that said that money's not at risk. I mean, something needs to happen. But right now, well, you tell me, where with the state funding for the demolition part?
I've been very clear since the beginning about what has to happen for that money to stay safe. And what I've always made clear is that the city needs to take the land, right? So I didn't necessarily want to provide any funding until the city committed to actually taking the land if we got the money. Senator Broxton was a little bit more understanding or friendly to the project. And so Senator Broxton still wanted to fund it. So I backed him and helped get the money anyway. But I've always said, I don't want to get this money until I know this project's going to go forward. The metric I've always had is the city has to take the land. Well, my understanding is the city has taken the land at this point, and they've gone through the process of selecting a vendor, a contractor to do the demolition. So the 7 million is staying in the budget and it's fine. It's not contingent at all about what the county commission does. So as long as the city has taken the land and is actually doing something um, toward using those funds for the demolition, the money is safe at the state level. I guess like if the city hasn't started or done anything or drawn down any funds from that 7 million by next session,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'll reconsider pulling it if I don't feel like they're actually taking this seriously. But at this point, no, the money's safe.
Great, great. Well, Alex, thank you for coming on this morning. Hope everything goes this weekend well for you soon. I know this right before is it's always a little hair. Everything's a little bit different. How's your daughter taking all this about having a sibling?
She's excited. She's 2.5. As best she understands, she's excited to be a big sister. And I think once we actually have another daughter in the household, I think she'll be great.
Okay, great. Alex, have a great weekend.
Thanks for watching, and to keep up with what's going on, be sure and subscribe. Just click on the little dog to the right and click the subscribe button. You can also like this video and click on the bell, which will notify you of new content. This really helps the channel grow. We appreciate you.